Hi Math 20, welcome back. We are going to be working on the next lesson now, 1.2 simple interest problems. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, looking at the very beginning, remember you've got the try these at the beginning of every lesson. So I want you to go ahead and work through your try these. You should be able to come up with the answer for these on your own. If you aren't sure, I want you to get a hold of me, but the answers you should come up with, just so you know, 7.52, and then the very last one here, it's going to be 10. You should be able to solve these. Hopefully, I'm happy to review it together with you if you can't. So if you struggle with how to solve these, please contact me right away. All right. Let's see, we're going to look at the very first one here. Sierra is completing her tax form. So they're telling you that she earned $30.24 in simple interest from her bank. Here's your keyword, simple interest. She remembered investing $1,200 with her bank and she did it for 1 year, but she can't remember the interest rate. So what was her interest rate? You have this formula already from the last lesson. So your interest equals your principal times your rate times the time that it was invested. So in this case, you know that what she earned, her interest earned, was $30.24 equals the principal, that's what she invested to begin with, $1,200, times the R that you're trying to solve for, and she invested it for 1 year. You need to solve for R in this case. So if you're solving for R, do everything you can. You've got two choices when you're solving for an unknown. You can either rearrange the formula in the beginning, or you can rearrange it as you go once you have the numbers in it. If I was rearranging this to start with, I equals PRT. I know I'm trying to solve for R, so I have to divide P and T by that side. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. What you're left with is interest over principal times time equals your rate. Personally, I actually like to rearrange a formula before I do anything, but there's nothing wrong with doing it after, which is often what this workbook has you do. So if we're solving for R, we have our interest, 30.24, equals, when you solve this side, you've done the 1,200 times 1, which in the end, you're left with 1,200. So that's everything on this side. Now they're going to do the exact step that we did, just they're doing it here. So 30.24, they want to divide 1,200 out of each side. That's how you get it out of that side. Whatever you do to one side, you do to the other. Divide both sides by 1,200. You're going to be left with 0.0252. That's your rate. Now remember, you always have to convert your rate from the percentage into a decimal. So in this case, you're solving for the decimal. That's your decimal rate. What is the percentage on that going to be? So that is just, you're timesing it by 100%. So 0.0252 times 100. Same thing that you're going to do. You're timing it by 100. Same. You just remember you're going to move that decimal place over 2 spots. It's going to be the same as 2.52%. All right, let's go down to this next example here. So Stephen is saving to buy a used boom lift for his tree trimming business. He needs $9,800. This is how much he needs to have. He has $9,475 saved. He plans to invest his savings at an annual rate of 1.59% or 1.59% per year. So that's telling you that's how much he's getting every year. How long must he invest to earn an additional $325 in interest? That's where he's hoping to make up this extra. He only has this much, but he wants to have $9,800. So he needs an extra $325. So he's hoping to just be able to invest it and then get that in interest. All right. So substitute the given information into the simple interest formula. So our interest rate, so remember to think about, go back up to the top. What do you want to have in interest? You want to have $325. Haven't earned it yet, but this is what he's hoping to earn. He's got the principal is the amount that he's putting in, $9,475. They've given you the rate in this case. So it's it's 1.59. So remember 1.59. You've got to divide it by 100. You want to get it, because it's over 100, to get it into its interest or into its decimal. So you're moving that decimal spot over 2. So it's going to equal, when you get it into your decimal point, 0.0159. That should be familiar from Math 10. If you're struggling with that, please get a hold of me. We'll go through it. 0.0159. And this is what we're solving for this time, a t. So just work that through. So 325 is still on this side. Multiply those two together, and you're going to come up with 150.6525. And leave them out, all of those in there as long as you can, whatever you have in your decimal point. Don't round up or down until you get to the end. You'll see it can make a difference in your number, especially when you're working with time and interest rates and whatnot. So just good practice. So 325 divided by 150.6525 equals your t. So t equals 2.157 years. And you know it's years because of up here is 1.59% per year. So your time has to be consistent. This is not days because you're working with what percentage it was per year. So you've got this in years. Now let's say you wanted to know exactly what that's going to be in what's the time in years and days. So you've got your years was 2.157 years times 365 days in a year. You're going to end up with 787.408 days. Or in this case, 488 days. Now, you're going to maybe say, well, wait a minute, that actually should round down, 0.4 should round down to 787. You cannot invest for part of a day. Really important to remember that throughout this whole chapter, that if they ask you about time, how many days, how many years, whatever, well, it'll be days. How many days did you invest for? You have to round up because you cannot, if you round down, you've lost that part of a day that was really important in earning part of that interest. So always round up when you are working out interest problems involving questions just like this. So in this case, you have 788 days minus 365 days minus 365 days. So there, they've minus that twice, equals 58 days. Now you might be wondering, why did they subtract 365 days twice? It's 365 days in a year, so they're trying to get down to how many days outside of that. So 788 days, if you minus 365, which is the same as 1 year, you are going to be left with 423. That's still bigger than a year. So long as your number is more than 365, you have to take another year off. So in this case, they did 365. Oh, they're left with 423. So they did it again, minus 365 again for that second year. So in that case, they were left with 58 days and 2 years that was left there. So, 788 days equals 2 years because we took that off twice, and 58 days. So Stephen needs to invest for 2 years and 58 days exactly in order to get what he needs. Last one here. Solution 2. Solution 2. So this is actually what they're looking at here. This is the same question, but they've shown you one way to solve for it. And now we're going to just run through a second way to solve for it here. And you'll be able to decide which you prefer. Both are going to be right, but this is actually using the way that I was saying that I like to move the formula around in the first place. So you've got PRT. We're trying to get T by itself. So both are going to be divided by P and an R. So I over PR equals T. And now that you have your formula rearranged, you put your numbers into it. So I was 325. Your principal was 94.75. And your R, which was your rate, was 0.0159. And then you end up with 325 over, in the end, that's going to be 150. Just what we got up there. And you're left with the same thing, 2.157. And what's the time in years and days? So 2.157 times 365 days in a year. Now, what they're doing in this case, you already know that it's 2 years. You solve that up here as well. You know it's 2 years and 58 days. But in this case, it's 2.157. You went the long way before. You turned it all into days and then took out 2 years again. So let's think about how we can do this quicker. We know we have 2 years. What we're really trying to solve for is this 0.157 days. How many is 0.157 days? So you can have 2 years plus 0.157 years times 365 days in a year. Remember your order of operations. You're doing those differently. That's happening separately. So you'll have your 2 years plus 57.408, which is 1.57 times 365. 57.408. Again, we'll always round up. You'll have 2 years and 58 days. Both of these, you can have this way of solving it or the way that we did it up there. Both of them are fine, so long as you understand which one you like better and how they both come up with the same answer. Use whichever one you prefer. That's everything for lesson 1.2. So go ahead and work through the example questions. If you've got any problems, please get a hold of me, and we'll see you in the next lesson.